Hello and welcome to MegaMeeting, video and web conferencing for all of us. Today we're going to do a very basic training session covering how to create a meeting, join that meeting, and go over some very basic meeting room options. Once you've logged into your MegaMeeting account, I want to point out something very important. At the top of the screen is a help menu, which shows you our user's guide and our troubleshooting guide. Both great resources for using MegaMeeting in the future in case you have any questions after this brief demonstration. Once you've logged in, you'll see a host options box appear in the center of your screen. The first thing we have there is the Your Name field. This is the label that appears under your image inside the meeting room. Below that we have our Join a Meeting button, which is how you join existing meetings in your account. You simply click that button, pick a meeting from your list, and then click the Join button to join that meeting. The Create a Meeting button is how you create new meetings on your account, and we'll come back to that one in a second. The End a Meeting button is how you end existing meetings in your account. If you wanted to, you can just pick one of the meetings and end it so that it's no longer active on your account. Once you've created a meeting, it can be used over and over again, as it's always active on the account. But if you no longer want it active, that's when you end it. So let's go ahead and get right to it and create a meeting. Once we open up our Create a Meeting dialog box, we're going to go ahead and change our meeting name. Now, meeting names can have letters, numbers, and underscores, no spaces or special characters. The date and time are completely optional and mostly informational. You can actually join meetings before or after that date or time, up to a year in advance or a year before. If you do want to specify a date and time, to change the date, you simply click on the date. It then opens up a calendar, which allows you to pick which day you'd like to have your meeting. The time field can be changed by highlighting the existing time and typing in new time, or by using the arrows to the left or right to actually go up or down and adjust your time. The password field is completely optional. If you do choose to use a password, it is case sensitive, and both you and the guests have to enter the information in to be able to enter the meeting room. The Auto Accept Attendees feature allows you to control when your guests can enter the room. By default, your guests are allowed automatically in the room when this box is checked. They don't need your permission, they don't need to wait till you're there. They can just come right in. When you uncheck this option, they are restricted to waiting until you are present, and you have to allow them access. You can deny someone if you don't want them to come into your room, but only when that box is left unchecked. The Join This Meeting Now option will actually decide whether you want to go in the meeting room right now once you create it, or if you want to just create it for a future date. At the bottom you have the Advanced button. This covers a lot of the advanced meeting room settings. Now we're not going to cover them, but again we have this help menu at the top, and our user's guide goes over every one of these settings in detail. The Email Invitations button is how we send out email invitations to invite our guests to our room. Now we can change things like the email subject, the host name, or add comments using the comment field. Once we decide what we want to put in for those three boxes there, we can then come down to our email field where we can type in our guests or our other host email addresses. We just go ahead and type in the email address here in this field, and then click on this Add to Recipients button to the right hand side. That's going to add our guest email address to the recipient field there at the bottom. We can add as many email addresses as we like, and once we're done, we simply click on the Send button here at the bottom to send out our email invitations. Now you notice it gives you a little warning in the center that tells you that your email invitations will not be sent until you finish creating the meeting. Very important, because if you decide not to create the meeting, you don't want to send out invitations. So we'll go ahead and click OK there. And of course the last step in the process is clicking the OK button here, and that creates our meeting and takes us straight into it. Now, while this is loading, it's actually trying to recognize cameras and microphones on your computer, and it's going to ask you here if you want to allow or deny your camera from being seen inside the room. We of course want to allow this so our guests can see us and hear us during the meeting. Now, once we're in the room, we're going to notice several things around the screen. We're going to start with the upper right hand corner. We have our meeting information box, which shows us the name of the meeting and the port number we're using. In the upper left, we have our audio box, which controls our voice over IP settings. Now there are two buttons there, and they are for very specific purposes. Our hold to transmit button works like a walkie-talkie. When I hold that button down, I can transmit audio, and while I'm transmitting, I can't hear anything that's happening. Just like a walkie-talkie, it cuts off all incoming sound. Once I let that button go, I no longer am transmitting, and I can then hear what my guests have to say to me. They could then use that button to transmit audio back. The lock button locks in my audio for full duplex. Now I can hear and speak at the exact same time. Now I want you to notice that when any audio is transmitting, a blue bar appears in the attendee list and below my image. That means I'm trying to transmit audio at that point. Once I unlock it, it disappears. That lets me know and lets my guests know that my audio is turned off, and they can then transmit audio to me at that point. Now the microphone volume option here lets me toggle up or down my audio. So if I wanted to make it go higher or lower, I can use this little toggle here. Keep in mind that your guests can also turn up or down their speakers. We really don't want to go beyond half here. The attendee list here shows you the names of people in the room with you, and as a host you will always have that orange arrow to signify that you're a host inside the room. If you don't have the orange arrow, that means you came in as a guest, and you may want to log out and come back in as the host if you need to have host options inside the room. Now at the bottom of this we have our first button, turn video off. This is going to toggle on or off our image from the screen. When I click this button, it turns off my image and it disappears for everyone inside the meeting room, so they can no longer see me. When I click the button again, it turns my image right back on. The chat window button here turns off the chat window and turns it back on as well. And chatting is very simple. You simply type in a message in this text field at the bottom. You can hit either enter on your keyboard or click the submit button in the lower right hand corner. Now several windows can be moved or adjusted inside the room, including my image. If I hold my mouse anywhere on my image and drag it, I can move it around the screen. I can also use this little tab here in the lower right to drag it larger or smaller. The chat window works the same. I can hold my mouse on the top of it, drag it around, and use the tab to make it larger or smaller. This is all independent. You can make changes to anyone's image independently on your own screen. Those are the very basic settings of the room, and we're going to stop there because you have the opportunity to play with these very, very basic settings, because these are the majority of things you're going to be using when you're in a mega meeting. At the top of the screen, there are two options that I'm going to cover as well: the disconnect option and the quit option. Now as a host, you're going to have the disconnect option. That's going to allow you to disconnect from this room and go back to that host options page we started off from. That way, if you want to join an additional meeting, you could, or create another meeting, or end a meeting. You stay logged into your account and still have the ability to do those things. Now all the guests are going to have quit, and you'll also have quit. If you want to quit, you no longer want to be logged into your account, you can simply click that button. It takes you out into a landing page that says thank you for coming to the meeting. And of course, at any time you can always just close the web browser, and that will also disconnect you from the session. I want to thank you very much for joining us today, and remind you that we have our help menu here with some great resources. We have a user's guide and a troubleshooting guide that can help you with anything else you may want to know about MegaMeeting. Thank you so much and have a great rest of the day.